I'm JP Tuesday.
And I'm Kiki Cannon. As lifelong Disney fans, the work of countless talented Disney creatives have shaped our lives.
Now, as the Disney catalog expands, we're taking a journey through film and television to discover if that spark that shaped us as children lives on in adulthood.
Does your favorite Disney media still cast that same spell? Join us as we find out. We are Rewatching the Magic.
Hi, Kiki.
Hi, Tuesday.
We are talking about the 2023 Disney movie Wish, the most recent original Walt Disney animated movie. Yeah, Moana 2, but that's a sequel. But I'm talking, original stories here. And this movie has a bit of controversy to it, but this movie bombed at the box office. I'm going to say that straight up at the gate. And honestly, I think this movie bombed for the same reasons that we've talked about movies like Strange World bombing. I mean, I know I'm not supposed to say this stuff right out of the gate, but the main character in this movie is a black girl with braids. And people have seen that, and the usual suspects complain.
Yes, the usual suspects complained. The thing is that when I saw the trailer for this, I was really excited for this movie. I don't know how you felt.
It was interesting because they were advertising this movie as the culmination of what Disney was calling the 100 Years of Magic. It was the big celebration of 100 years of the Walt Disney Company, going all the way back to 1923 when Walt and Roy started the Disney Brothers studio. So you think, okay, this is going to be the big anniversary movie. This is going to be the culmination of 100 years of Disney movies. They're talking about there's going to be references. This is going to be like all of the best stuff of the past 100 years rolled into one movie. And the trailer is fine. The trailer was fine, but I think that hype of this is the culmination of 100 years of Disney magic kind of set expectations for some people too high. That's just my thought.
I'm not sure that I had massive expectations, but it looked like an interesting concept. We talk about how Pixar is What If Blank Had Feelings? And this looked like, okay, when you wish upon a star, now let's find out what that star is. You know? What's the backstory of that star?
What is the story of the second star to the right, the wishing star? And the fact that they made the wishing star a main character in this movie, basically the origin of Disney magic. That's kind of how I understood the movie going into it. That this was just the origin of where Disney magic comes from. And yeah, I did not see this movie in theaters, neither did you. This is a double first watch just for this podcast. But it also came out at a time where there was a lot of backlash against Disney for various reasons. And again, the usual suspects complaining of a dark-skinned woman being the main character in a Disney movie. But also, the usual complaints about Disney. How all they make are remakes and sequels, and well, you want an original story, here it is, and you're not going to go see it. oh, they're talking about references. It's going to be all this stuff. It's like, are you going to go see it though? And that has always been my complaint about these things. Is that there is a section of people on the internet, and I'm, chronically online people, let's be real, who always talk about studios, specifically Disney. They always mention Disney, of all about the remakes and the sequels and why not release something original. And when they do release something original, nobody goes to see it. This came out the same year as Elemental. And no one wanted to go see Elemental despite it being an original story. It wasn't a sequel, it wasn't a remake, it was something original. And, oh, I don't want to watch that. I don't know anything about this movie, blah, 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 blah. But Elemental was able to save itself with really good word of mouth. Like, the trailers did not do that movie justice. And the word of mouth of Elemental after the fact really got the ball rolling and really saved that movie. And I'm guessing Disney was kind of hoping for the same thing with Wish, that once the movie is out, it's going to have good word of mouth, and people are going to go see it, and the movie will make some money. And that didn't happen. But like I said, this is an original story, and it lost out to a prequel for the Hunger Games. Which is why I always say, which is kind of my point here. People say they want original stories. They don't want sequels. They don't want remakes. When an original story comes out, they're all watching a prequel. The big movies in 2024, all of the top movies were sequels and remakes. So when Disney decides to go headstrong into sequels and remakes, we're getting a remake of Lilo and Stitch this year, getting a remake of Snow White in a few weeks. They've already announced Frozen 3 and Incredibles 3 and Zootopia 2. And people will complain, oh, all they do is sequels and remakes. And the big movie that came out of the fall was Moana 2. That movie, everyone was complaining, oh, no one wants to see this. Nobody wants this. And that movie made a ton of money. So you can say a big game of, I don't want remakes, I don't want sequels, and then you're going to go see the remake and the sequel. Put your money where your mouth is. You want Disney to stop making these remakes and sequels, and you want them to make more original stories? Don't go to see the remakes and the sequels, go see the original story. And I think that's another thing that went against Wish. It was an original story, it was something different, and people did not want new and different. They wanted the familiar. Hence, they went to go see the Hunger Games prequel. Another movie that I have never seen.
Yeah, I didn't get to see that prequel movie yet.
And its thing is that Disney went hard on the advertising for this. Like, I was seeing a lot of merch for this. I was seeing a lot of billboards for this. And it's like, even after the movie failed, seeing there's a giant Wish billboard that I saw for months after the movie came out that was just still there. It was like, oh, Wish, I'm so sorry you didn't do that well. Now I got to see this poster of Magnifico looking at me every time I go to work.
Yeah, I want to talk about the first of all, I want to bring up, for those who may not be familiar with it, because it's been a while since we've talked about one of these movies that failed so heavily from the get-go. And we talk about it quite a bit when these movies come up. But my theory of a movie rots from the top down, which is that when a movie fails this badly, you start from the highest point and you follow the chain of command, for lack of a better term, down until you find the point of failure. And that starts with like the studio CEO, and then you work your way down.
So this would have been during the Chapek era when this movie was in development. So you would have to go from there.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not sure if it was Chapek. I mean, we're heavily on record as blaming him for a lot. But if a movie fails this badly, you gotta ask, is it studio interference? Then is it something on the production with forced rewrites, reshoots from the higher ups? Then is it something with the budget or the time they had in production to film, or in this case animate? Then is it something with the directing? Is it something with the writing? Is it something with, and then you get down to like, is it something in the acting? Is it something in the costume design or the, whatever? Mm-hmm. Some of the lower level, not lower level as far as creativity, but the people who have less of a say in the overall product. So when a movie fails this badly overall, as a piece of art and media, you're really looking pretty high up the chain of command. And I'm not sure what part failed or if it's just a bunch of failures pretty high up. Because it's not the cast. Let's get that out of the way. The cast for this is absolute fire.
I mean, right off the bat, you've got Chris Pine as King Magnifico, our villain. And he is proper scene-chewing villain.
And he's got that traditional Disney, every villain is lime aesthetic. Love it. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and we had talked before how what we've dubbed New Disney not having a proper villain. This is a proper villain. This is a throwback.
They attempt to have a proper villain. We'll get into that. Mm. But their idea was that they wanted to have a traditional Disney villain. Mm.
And Chris Pine's got some pipes on him.
Oh yeah, I mean, we haven't talked about the other Disney musical he was in, but we'll get around to it. Mm.
And our co-lead here, Ariana DeBose as Asha, our heroine in this movie. She does a good job. I mean, she is, your typical teenage, I have big dreams and I'm going to go after them Disney heroine. I can't really call her a princess because she's not royal. So heroine is the proper word, I would say.
Yeah, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. Not all Disney films center around royalty, of course, and not all Disney films with a female lead have to have a princess. We've talked about that before. She does a good job with the part she is given. The part she is given sometimes lets her down. Some of our supporting cast, we've got Victor Garber as her Saba, her grandfather. And he does a great job with what he's given. We've got Harvey Guillen, our wonderful Gizmo from What We Do in the Shadows.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about how much we like his acting over there on that other show.
Mm-hmm.
Evan Peters shows up in this. We've talked about him before. Of course, Alan Tudyk. And he gets to say words instead of just animal noises.
Alan Tudyk, which has become Disney's Walt Disney Animation Studios, have specifically been their good luck charm in the yeah.
For at least a decade now.
Yeah.
Which, good for him. So, the cast is great. No shade to the cast. They do fine with what they're given. The issue really starts further up.
So there's two people I want to talk about, since you said, the problem goes at the top. Let's talk about two people that have cred, that were kind of responsible. Wish has 4 screenwriters, but the main screenwriter, the story by credit, goes to Jennifer Lee. And Jennifer Lee, we kind of talked about, because she's been a writer on a lot of the modern Disney films. Wreck-It Ralph, Frozen, Zootopia, Frozen 2. She's been the director on all of the Frozen movies. She will be the director on Frozen 3. So, and obviously the writer for this movie. So you look at the movies she's done: Wreck-It Ralph, Frozen, Zootopia, and there's cred here. So she has a good track record. She stumbles a bit with Wrinkle in Time. We will talk about that movie another day, maybe, somehow. Wait, I'm not sure. But, she's also has some producer credits on, like, Raya and the Last Dragon, Encanto, Strange World. So, she has cred with Disney. So I don't know there. And our director, Chris Buck, he's had a career with Disney going back into the 80s, working on Fox and the Hound, Black Cauldron, Brave Little Toaster, Oliver and Company, The Little Mermaid, and was the director on Tarzan, and the co-director on the Frozen 1 and Frozen 2. So again, you have some really credible people here, and you gotta wonder what went wrong.
I think part of the answer to what went wrong can be seen in the plot, or weirdly lack of it. I think the moment that I realized that everything I had kind of heard about this film was probably going to be true. There is this moment early on where Asha is talking to the king, and he keeps referring to all of these various things that have happened in the past. And all of a sudden I realized I don't think the movie is ever going to answer these questions.
Yeah, right at the start when we see Magnifico, we hear that he's come from a land far away, that was destroyed somehow. He wanted to create this place for people from all walks of life to live in peace. So, judging by the wording, there was some sort of war, this is a guess, that destroyed his original homeland. And he wanted to make sure that would never happen again. And we see this torn and burnt tapestry, presumably from his original homeland, hanging in his office. And all we see is him looking at it as like, it happened before, I can never let it happen again. But we never find out what happened, what caused that burn, what caused those tears. And if he's supposed to be the villain, you could say, oh, he's hiding the truth, that it's him that started the war, or him that was responsible for some other evil act or something, and we never hear anything about it. Just some devastating act happened that destroyed his original homeland, which forces him to leave that homeland and start a new kingdom, which he wants to make peaceful and make everybody happy. Like, that's not even half a backstory. There's questions there that I'm asking myself as I'm watching this, and yeah, by the end of the movie, none of those questions are answered.
They set up a whole bunch of, like, Chekhov's various things, you know, Chekhov's tapestry, Chekhov's book of spells, you know, all this other stuff. And they never pay off. The thing is that he keeps saying, like, I have to make sure that will never happen again, and then we never find out what that was.
I feel that this movie was more concerned with making self-referential remarks to other Disney movies, and that sacrificed the story. Because, again, this was supposed to be the 100th anniversary movie, so we're going to reference 100 years of Disney movies.
I have no problem with things being self-referential. I have no problem with Easter eggs. I have no problem with any of that kind of stuff. But you also have to have a decent plotline. And this movie is all over the place. I needed it to find a plotline and stick to it.
Like you said, we never find out what this event that ruined his kingdom, his previous kingdom, was. It starts out with a very light, this character has a shady past, which is the event that happened in his previous homeland that we never find out about. Then it goes into a power corrupt storyline where this benevolent king is corrupted by the powers that he possesses. And then it goes into a paranoia storyline where the king believes that there's a traitor among them, and it goes deeper and deeper into paranoia, and then going into dark magic. I must find the one that betrayed me. I'm going to use dark magic to find the one that betrayed me, to find the traitor, and it just snowballs into that. And then it's just, by the end of the movie, it's, there will be no happiness, there will be no dreams, there will be no one, all will love me. Pick a lane and go with it. If it was a shady past and he's actually a bad guy from the jump, go with it. Maybe he was the one that destroyed his previous homeland, and then that gets exposed. Or maybe he was just a kind king that got corrupted by power. That would be a great story. Or is he a king that was corrupted by jealousy or paranoia, what have you, but it wants all of it at once. he is every Disney villain rolled into one, and they can't pick a lane.
Also, I know that the whole point of the movie is something about wishes, but what's this dude's plan with the wishes? Okay, I don't understand the king's plan with the wishes.
All we get is he says people on their 18th birthday come to him, give them their wish, and he keeps them. And his thing is, it's a burden lifted off of them. There is this burden of trying to make their dream come true. I take that burden away from them.
You don't even remember what it was you wished for.
I can believe that he believes this is him doing a good thing because he is taking the worries away from his people. So I can buy that. But it feels like there needs to be a more nefarious undertone to that. All it is these wishes are mine and mine alone, and I decide which wishes get granted. I decide good and evil. Like, the wishes give him a power boost, but he doesn't find that out until later in the movie. If that was revealed earlier on, that the reason he is a powerful sorcerer is because he is literally taking the hopes and dreams of his people and infusing it into himself to grant him more power from the jump, and that was at the very beginning of the movie, I can buy this guy as a true villain. But it's just, I have them to have them. And no one will have them but me, and I will decide which wish gets granted and which won't. And sorry, Asha, you're asking too many questions. Your family's wishes will never be granted.
If you watch the pitch meeting by Ryan George for this movie, he brings up a good point, which I had also had that same thought watching this, but he puts it in such a more succinct fashion, which is in her meeting with the king to try to become the sorcerer's apprentice, the king's sorcerer's apprentice, whatever, Asha suddenly realizes that not everybody will have their wish granted, but they also say that Magnifico only grants one wish a month. Look how many people are on this island.
And new people are coming to that island all the time.
Yeah, her grandfather is 100 years old, and he has not had his wish granted yet.
And her job, she has a job, is being the tour guide for new people to the kingdom. There are so many new people coming to this kingdom that they had to set up a tour guide service so they know where everything is. So if you're getting boats full of new people coming to your kingdom on a regular basis, and any of those people that are over the age of 18 have to give their wish to the king, there's no possible way all of them are ever going to get granted.
Yeah, and like Ryan George said, like, you're just figuring this out now. Like, simple math did not occur to anybody on this island before now. There are two things that come up very early in the movie, kind of at the point where Asha realizes, like, oh no, the king is the bad guy, which, thanks to the movie for not drawing that out, like, Asha is clued into that very quickly.
Within the first 15 minutes.
Yeah, I'm glad that the movie did not act like the audience was stupid.
They're going to see a Disney fairy tale like musical. We know who the bad guy is. Especially if this is going to be the 100th year celebration of Disney. It's 100 years. We know.
But there were two things in that Sorcerer's Apprentice interview scene that made me kind of think, yeah, I know this movie's going to really suck. One is the song that they sing about the wishes. Not the first song in the movie, but this is supposed to be like the first big song in the movie. And this song does not fit what the movie should be doing at this point. Because if you listen to the style and the lyrics of this song, this is a love song. Like, it's a romance song, or maybe this could be a song of a parent to a newborn child, maybe?
I will protect you. That is the undertone of the song. I have you, I will protect you. And it makes sense from Magnifico's point of view. I have these wishes. The people have trusted me with their hopes and dreams. And I am going to protect them because I am their king and I want to make my people happy. From Asha is, my grandfather has this one wish and I will take this wish and I will protect this wish with everything I have because my grandfather, I love my grandfather so much. I want him to have his wish come true, and I will protect that with everything I have. Which again shows I feel like it's the wrong vibe for both characters because it kind of makes Asha sound very selfish. Like, she doesn't really care about the wishes, the hopes and dreams of everybody else. She only cares about the wish of her grandfather. Which, I get it, it's his 100th birthday, he's waited so long, why not? And the king is thinking of the bigger picture. I have to protect the wishes of all of the people, not just one. Which I feel is the wrong vibe for both characters at that point in the movie. I feel the vibe should be Asha should be singing about, I will protect their wishes. And Magnifico should say, I will protect my wishes. Like, he sees the wishes of his people belonging to him. They gave it to him. They belong to him. They are his and his alone. Where Asha should be seeing, these are the wishes of my neighbors, of my friends, of my family. I will protect all of them because they deserve to be protected. You kind of get where I'm going with that?
Yeah, I mean, but also, this song has nothing to do with wishes. It's not, and even, like, if you look up what the composers said about this song, it was originally written with the words, I love you instead of promise. Also, the composer said she wanted it to sound like a standalone love song that wasn't connected to the movie.
I mean, this probably would have gone from the original plot of the movie before it got changed. Because Star was not supposed to be a silent character. Star was supposed to be a talking character that would take the form of a young man. So it's possible that this was intended to be the love song between Star and Asha before that character was made into a tiny little mute star.
Maybe, but I want to, while we're on the subject of the songs, I want to point out something. We've talked about this before when we talked about, like, when Phil Collins writes songs for Disney and stuff. This was more we're trying to write pop songs and then just drop them into a Disney movie rather than we're trying to write songs that move the story forward.
Mm.
And only maybe one song in this film works. And most of these songs really, really suck. I'm sorry. I mean, I hate to kind of make such a blanket statement, but I feel if you like them, that's everybody's got their own opinion, and I respect that. If these songs are your jam, please, get your jam on. Everybody deserves a little bit of happiness in this nightmare world. Please enjoy. But when I'm talking about how the movie flows together and how the songs work with the film, I do not think they work in the context of the film.
Like, Welcome to Rosas, it's fine. It's your typical introduction song of the world that they're in. It's fine. The only one that really moves the plot is that song, Knowing What I Know Now, is when when the kids and the queen come together and form their plan, and that actually is moving the plot along.
Now, see, this is where we're going to disagree. Because I don't think Knowing What I Know Now is the song that works. This Wish, which is the kind of I want song, not really, but sort of. It's in the place of the I Want song.
Yeah, I mean, it's her making a wish to have everyone's wish come true.
No. It's not. This is another problem I have with this movie. Oh my god, I have so many problems with this movie. Her wish, literally in the song, is something more for us than this. Which is funny because the reason her grandfather's wish was turned down by Magnifico is because it was too vague, and her grandfather's wish, which was to write a song that would inspire the next generation, might have been a song that would have inspired a revolution.
Yeah, and the payoff for that, we'll get to it.
And her wish is even more vague. It's just like, can stuff be better, maybe? But the thing of it is that the reprised version of it is less a good song, but more a good moral. I hate to say moral, but this movie is so all over the place that that's kind of the best the movie gets, in my opinion.
I mean, if it had been something foreshadowed, because it's like, okay, everyone in the kingdom is making the same wish at the same time. We wish for a life better than this. And that's what defeats Magnifico. I kind of wish that had been alluded to earlier. Allude to the power of the wishes. How powerful is a wish?
Well, that's another problem with the movie. Problem number 736. But this movie does not know where it stands on wishes. Because the original Disney thing is, when you wish upon a star, your dreams come true. That's That's the original Disney mantra. But this one can't figure out whether when you wish upon a star your dreams come true, or whether the best thing about the wish is just having the wish. Like, just having a wish, whether or not it comes true, makes you all warm and fuzzy, or whether working toward a wish, whether or not it comes true, is the important thing, or if wishing on a star does nothing, you have to work towards the wish yourself, or, you see what I mean?
The movie can't decide whether do you rub the magic lamp or do you dig a little deeper. And it wants it both ways. Do you rub the magic lamp and instantly you get what you want, or do you have to dig a little deeper and work for your dream? That is the problem with what I said before, is that the movie wants to make all of these references to past Disney movies, which is fine, but it comes at the expense of the story. And like I said, I just referenced 2 Disney movies right there with completely opposite ways of making your dreams come true. And this movie wants them both at the same time. Like, it doesn't even know if stars in the sky are actual tangible beings, or are they the forces of the universe looking down upon you, guiding you to your path. The great kings of the past guiding you to your destiny. And the fact that that's the reference that her father, Asha's father, is, that's supposed to be a Lion King reference. The thing about the Disney movies, the animated movies, is that they can be all over the place because they're different worlds. It all works differently in each of these movies, and it wants all of it at the same time. Like I said, this movie cannot pick a lane. It wants it all. It wants to reference all of the classic Disney movies and wants all of the ways those worlds work to work at the same time, even if they're contradicting each other.
Yeah, the thing about it is that this is supposed to be 100 years of Disney in one movie, and the problem is, it's not really a problem, but it is a problem for this movie, and that is that in 100 years, cultural views of certain things have changed. And think of what we've talked about in previous episodes about how people talk about in the culture the problem with Disney being like, oh, your prince will come and your wish will come true and your whatever. There's a lot of talk in the culture about how Disney kind of messed a bunch of us up, like with those ideas of what fairy tales and wishes and stuff like that do to a person. And this movie can't decide which Disney it wants to be. Does it want to be traditional Walt era Disney with the black and white villain and the wish upon a star, or does it want to be the new Disney where we work together for something better and we're a little bit more woke and we're a little bit more, it wants to be all 100 years of Disney, in the same film, and that is not going to work because there's too much that has happened. Disney is not the same today as it was 100 years ago.
Disney's not the same that it was 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, or 30 years ago. Much less 100. Take a look at, like, you can take the formula of a classic Disney movie, like Snow White, like Cinderella. Take the formula of a Renaissance Disney movie, like Little Mermaid, or Beauty and the Beast, and take the formula of a modern Disney movie like Frozen or Encanto. Those are different formulas, different viewpoints, different eras, different cultures. And when you're taking all of them and putting them into one movie, there are so many contradictions, and this movie wants all of the contradictions to work. I wish that they had just picked a lane. Like, honestly, you want to do 100 years celebration of Disney, then you can put a little bit of everything in there, but you have to decide which one is the main focus. Like, if it was me personally, my thought, if I was the guy to decide, okay, I'm going to do a movie that celebrates 100 years of Disney, why not use a traditional fairy tale? Disney hasn't used them all. I mean, just in the last 10, 15 years, we've gotten the Snow Queen and Rapunzel. There's a bunch that they haven't done yet. We can pick one. Then, if you want to have the Renaissance factor into it, bring in a well-known Broadway musical composer to do the music, and to have the modern aspect of it, have a modern writer. So you have your all three of the major eras of Disney, the classic era, the Renaissance, and the modern, all in one. And you have the best of those worlds, but this movie does not know which is the best of those worlds and wants it all.
Yeah, I don't know how many writers or whatever there were in this. I don't really know at what point this all went wrong.
Apparently, at one point, they were going to make this a traditional hand-drawn animated movie.
Oh, I wish.
And that would have been awesome. Imagine taking the modern Disney storytelling and putting it into a hand-drawn animated movie. That would have been the ultimate celebration. We're going back to where it all began, hand-drawn animation. But then they decided, yeah, that's going to be too much. We're just going to make this a CG movie, which is fine. I think a lot more people would be more forgiving of this movie if it had brought back hand-drawn animation. I mean, there are people who were upset that Star was not the young man. I mean, I've seen pictures of the young man Star and saying, look what they took from us. But the big complaint that I heard from this movie is the villain song. This is the thanks that I get, which is honestly the best song in the movie. And I've heard complaints that it's not a traditional villain song. It's what happened to Be Prepared, what happened to Hellfire. Just because this is not a minor chord mwahaha villain song doesn't mean that it doesn't work as a villain song. Like Magnifico, from his perspective, this is where he still thinks he's the good guy. I am doing this for the people. I am protecting them. I am making their lives better. I have taken all of their worries and strife away from them, and they're questioning my decisions. How dare they? This is the thanks that I get for having them live in a kingdom rent-free. I don't charge them here. No one has to pay for anything. All of their needs are taken care of. They have no worries. They have nothing. They live in peace and harmony. And why are you questioning me? And now I have to break my promise that I made to my wife to not use black magic to find the traitor in my kingdom. That is a hell of a jump, but it makes sense for the paranoia side of what I was saying earlier about Magnifico. And if they had gone more into that from the jump, this song would have been even better.
Yeah, it is the best song in the film as far as it's the best written and it's kind of the catchiest and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not a great villain song. I mean, people are right about that. I think one of the reasons why the song is the best song in the movie, but also doesn't really work that well, is the way they work it into the movie. And I think it's because it comes not out of nowhere, but a lot of the stuff in this movie is very fast. You know, life comes at you fast, and if you're not paying attention, you know,
Mm-hmm.
it feels like this movie is all at once too long and also has had a lot edited out of it.
Like, the movie itself is almost 2 hours, but it's just breakneck speed from beginning to end. There is no moment where you can breathe.
Yeah, so while we knew well before this song that Magnifico is the bad guy, the point at which this song comes, it's a little bit unexpected. A good villain song, you feel primed for the villain song. You know, there's kind of a moment where the villain is like, well, I'll show them, and then they have their villain song, you know? And where this is in the movie, Magnifico doesn't really have that build up before he goes into the song. There's a scene right before that, but it doesn't really lead into the song the way you want a Disney villain song to be led into, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And if you go compare the way that they transition into this song with other kind of really impactful Disney villain songs, you can see why this one is a bit jarring.
Like with Be Prepared, they're talking about their scheming and what are they going to do with Simba and Mufasa. Then it transfers into Be Prepared. Poor Unfortunate Souls, it's very much what can I do to make this happen and be a human, and oh, poor unfortunate souls, people come to me to get their desires. Or Hellfire, where it's like I've lusted after this woman and now I have a question of faith. Stuff like that.
Yeah, and also there tends to be something in the score that makes you feel like we are leading into something important here. You know?
Mm.
But in the way that the music for this is written, it's just kind of like, oh, there's a song now. You know, somebody dropped the needle on the record and now there is music playing.
Oh, it's been X number of minutes since we had a song. We should have a song here. But I still like it. I mean, him going with, I'm willing to sacrifice somebody else for your satisfaction. I'm not going to sacrifice myself. Oh, no, I'm going to sacrifice this guy.
Yeah, I mean, there are points in the song where I'm like, okay, that was clever. I appreciate that. And it is by far the most clever and interesting song in the film. I just still think that, like the other songs in the film, it doesn't really work. It wants to be a traditional musical, but it has the compositional style of the Phil Collins ones. And I hate to keep coming back to Phil Collins Disney movies, but you know, you can have the Phil Collins Tarzan thing where it's just like the movie stops for a pop song to play in the background over a montage. Or you can have a musical where the song moves the story forward. And the characters are singing that song and it shows their emotions and whatever. However, this movie wants to do both, and that doesn't work.
We are going to have to talk about the person that wrote these songs for a moment, and that is Julia Michaels. I'm going to be honest, don't really know much about her, but she is like she's pop singer songwriter, which that's probably where you're getting the Phil Collins aspect of it, because it is another pop artist, a popular music artist in that regard, rather than a traditional Broadway composer, where you're not, say what you will about Lin-Manuel Miranda, but at least he knows how to write a musical. The Lopez's have been everywhere with Disney, so I can see why they didn't want them for this one, but at least they know how to write a musical. You could have had any number of Broadway musical composers brought in for this. And I feel getting another pop singer, songwriter in here rather than that was probably one of the bigger mistakes of this movie.
Well, and I'm not even going to diss on pop stars writing musicals. Elton John can write a musical.
Oh, yeah.
But it's pretty obvious from reading what Julia Michaels said about the way she approached the music in this, that she was trying to write pop songs first, and then trying to write songs that fit in with the movie second.
It sounds like she was trying to write a jukebox musical, which there's nothing wrong with that. But, at least with a jukebox musical, you're taking existing songs and trying to make those existing songs fit into your story, or writing the story around the songs. And it feels that's what they're trying to do here. Write the songs first and then write the story around those songs, which doesn't really work in terms of a film.
Yeah, I'm not even sure we can grant them that much. It almost seems like it was like, hey, I want songs for a movie. What kind of songs do you want? I don't really care. Just write songs for a movie. Okay. It almost feels like somebody was locked in a room and told to write songs, and somebody was locked in a completely different room and told to write a film, and they came out with two different things and then had to mash them together. One of the things that I think is maybe a hot take, I don't know. This movie might have been better if they'd have leaned into the thing that was, I don't know how how much they intended it to be obvious or hidden or what, because sometimes it made it seem like they were trying to be subtle about it, and sometimes they were trying to be really obvious about it. I don't know. But this almost seems to be like they wanted it to be the prequel to all Disney things. Like, here's the origin story of everything Disney. Because Asha is the origin story of the fairy godmother.
She's wearing the fairy godmother's cloak in the movie. With the magic wand.
With the magic wand. And then by the end of the movie, they say, you can be our fairy godmother. Which Ryan George points out, how do these people know what a fairy godmother is if she's the first one? And then Magnifico is the mirror on the wall.
Yeah, that obsession over mirrors just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, in the villain song.
Which is halfway through the movie.
Yeah. But anyway, that's slightly more subtle. You have like Bambi in there, and you have Little John, the bear, and you have the mushrooms and flowers from Alice in Wonderland, and you have Snow White's wishing well, and you've got Peter Pan, and you've got... Yeah, I mean... Oh, and the one thing that I didn't understand until we were watching videos and stuff and doing research for this, I knew that they were trying to reference something with the Alan Tudyk goat being like, I dream of a place where all animals are alike and wear clothes. And then it got pointed out to me that that's apparently Zootopia.
That's what I was trying to tell you when I was texting you. That is a forced reference. Like
yes, but you didn't say a forced reference to what, and I kept saying like I've missed that reference. I know it's a reference to something, but I don't know what.
Well, he says Utopia. It's like I thought it was obvious, but maybe I was my mistake. So,
here's the thing: is as we talked about in Zootopia, that movie also sucks, and I try not to think about it.
So, like, okay, we've referenced every major Disney movie up to this point. We need a Zootopia reference in here. Let's have the goat talk about a city with animals living in it. Okay, we're good.
Alan Tudyk goat is great. Love it. I'm never gonna hate on them putting a random animal character in somewhere so that Alan Tudyk can get a paycheck, I guess, but
also, the comedic of a baby goat having a very deep voice.
Yeah, I don't know if that was his choice or if that was, the director was like, if that was in the script,
Because the goat references the fact that he's only 3 weeks old. So he's just a literal baby goat.
He's just a kid.
A kid.
But I really do think that this movie would have been better if it had leaned into this is the origin story of all the Disney things way more. Like, if that had been way more explicit. Have you ever wondered how the fairy godmother became the fairy godmother? Well, this is her origin story. Like, if that had been, like, way more explicit and they had worked very hard on trying to figure out how all these pieces fit together from all these disparate little movies, unified theory of Disney or something.
Mm-hmm.
that would have been maybe more fun to me, even if it was a silly little whatever, a silly little one-off, you know?
Mhm.
It might have been more inventive than, getting to the end and being like, oh, you could be the fairy godmother. Oh, these 7 characters are apparently references to the 7 dwarfs. But not really, but kind of.
And this is how animals learn how to talk.
Yeah, and this is why every animal in Disney can talk, you know. And maybe that's why all the magic of all the villains is green. Who knows,
Mm.
That would have been fun if there was like kind of an explanation for all that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And it could have been a silly little one-off or whatever. Like, the Disney Animated Studios version of What If. You know?
Yeah, the origin of all of Disney's magic.
And I mean, it started out with the little fairy tale book throwback anyway. You could have had a cute little framing story of, hey, we're celebrating 100 years of Disney. Maybe there's like a parent at the park or something, or
Go the Princess Bride route.
yeah, just do the Princess Bride route of like, Grandpa, how did the fairy godmother get her wand or something? Like, or why do we wish upon a star, or why is Disney the happiest place on earth? I don't know. Like, if you're gonna be self-indulgent, be frickin' self-indulgent.
I see where you're coming from, but I'm my own opinion is I think it leans too far into it, rather than trying to be its own thing. And I think either way would have made this a better movie.
Yeah, either don't do that at all, or if this is 100 years of Disney and we want to put in all the Easter eggs and make this like, oh, she's the fairy godmother and he's the magic mirror and this is where Bambi comes from and all that kind of crap, then like, you know, let's go balls to the wall,
And full on, full on go for it all. And this, at one point, this movie does. Oh, this guy wants to fly. That'll never happen. Oh, you want a nanny for your bratty kids? I'll pop your dream.
Yeah, I mean, either more of that or none of that. Don't
Yeah.
don't toe that line. If are we going to do this or are we not?
And it wants it both ways. It wants to be an original story about wishing on a star and how the power of wishes, but also we are going to reference 100 years of Disney films.
And the thing is that I think this could have been a good movie. One way or the other, either disconnect it from the history of Disney and you make it an original whatever, or you go, hey, we're going to tie in all of our properties, we're going to reference everything, we're going to unified theory of Disney here. I think either way, this could have been a much better film. And it kind of makes me sad because I see potential.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential in this movie. It doesn't live up to its potential, but also doesn't want to, if that makes sense. Like, for lack of a better term, and I apologize for this, but this movie goes half-ass on everything. And that's to this movie's own detriment. Like, oh, here's a cute little hidden Mickey here. Here's a cracked coffee cup here. Here's this little set piece here from that one movie. And then here's a reference to this movie and that movie and that movie and that movie. But we're not going to commit to the bit, as it were. You know who did this better? That freaking short Once Upon a Studio. And that was just Cameos the Short. Here's all of the Disney animated characters in one short, taking a picture to celebrate 100 years of the studio. And that did a better job than this movie. And that was like a 10-minute short.
I loved that short. Such a good short.
And that one had Asha in it.
It did, yeah.
Like, that one understood what it was. We are celebrating 100 years of Disney. We are going to have all of these characters, 100 characters. Some of these you know, some of them have been forgotten about. We're going to put them all in this short, and we're going to have them all take a family photo. Wonderful, happy 100th birthday, Disney Company. So how can a 10-minute short do it better than a 2-hour movie? And I think you're right on that. Something happened. Don't know where, don't know when, but somewhere between the higher-ups and the writer, director, and songwriter of this movie, something got lost. And this movie became a mess. Like, this is not a bad movie. It's not to me. It could have been better.
Well, we do disagree on that. I think this is a really bad movie.
This had potential to be great. It's fine. It's middle of the road.
I've seen worse movies, but I'm gonna quote a friend of mine here when I told him that we were watching this for the podcast, and he said, "You know what my wish was? My wish was that they had made a better movie."
Yeah, it could have been a lot better. And I think either way, either completely don't lean into the references or go full on, again, forgive my language, balls to the wall with your Disney references would have been better. Like, let's have the origin of everything. Let's have the origin of Neverland. Let's have the origin of... We already have the origin of talking animals. We have the origin of the fairy godmother, the origin of the magic mirror. Let's full on go with the origin of wishing on a star, the origin of magic in general. I don't know.
Or at the very least, they could have just answered questions like, what happened to Magnifico to make him learn magic?
That goes back to my original point. What happened? Why is Magnifico how he is? What happened in his life to make him so protective and possessive? What is his trauma? What happened in his original homeland that made him want to create what he believed was his perfect society? That he became this very possessive of wishes and dreams and hopes and whatnot, and eventually becoming this very, my wish is mine. That would have been a better movie.
I want to know where he got the idea about taking the wishes in the first place. Because he doesn't understand that, like, destroying the wishes can give him power until like halfway through the movie. So where was what was his plan to begin with? Was it just a way to control the populace before? I mean, honestly, was that it? Because that's an okay plan, but if that's the plan, then say that's the plan. They set up all these things like there's some grand backstory we're going to get, and it's going to give us more enlightenment on who this guy is, and then, no.
Yeah. And there's a post-credit scene here that is the payoff to the whole thing. Of Asha's grandpa wanted to create a song that will inspire people, and the song that he creates is When You Wish Upon a Star.
Because of course it is, and if you didn't see that coming.
I want to talk about my personal favorite part of this movie, and it's the end credits, because they show off one character from almost every Disney movie. Since this is supposed to be the 100-year celebration of Disney, we go from the beginning to the most recent. You start with Snow White, and it ends with Splat from Strange World, which was the previous movie that came out before this. Which is fine. You know, even characters that I'm surprised Disney has acknowledged. And it's the first time in decades that these characters get acknowledged. Like, okay, we're not going to reference all of the wartime movies, but here's Ichabod Crane. Okay, fine. He's the stand-in for all of those compilation films of the 40s. Fine. But you get references to Atlantis. You get references to Treasure Planet. You get references to Home on the Range, Dinosaur, Chicken Little, Bolt. Like, Disney has disavowed those movies. And to have those movies shown in the end credits, but, you know, what doesn't get referenced in those credits, characters you don't see? You don't see anyone from the Black Cauldron in that credit scene. I went back and I looked. No one from the Black Cauldron. And you know what the shocker was? No rescuers. They reference Home on the Range, but not the rescuers? The Rescuers, which we've talked about on this podcast, was one of the few hits of the post-Walt era? You kidding me? Justice for Bernard and Bianca. Yeah, we didn't like the movie, but bloody hell, they deserve their spot.
Yeah, the thing is that there is a rescuers reference, like, in the movie itself. You know, there's a nod to it.
Mm.
As far as the, Disney animated canon, Aurora and Jasmine are left out of the end credits. Merida is not in there, but that's because she's the only Disney princess who is from Pixar. I don't know why Aurora and Jasmine are left out of the end credits, but there
they show Maleficent. I'm guessing
Maleficent is awesome.
That's why Maleficent's in the credits and Aurora is not. But we get Aladdin in the credits, so he's the main character.
Yeah.
I would have gone with the genie for the Aladdin representation, but that's just me. Because it's not all main characters, because you get, like, Merlin in the credits, not Wart. I watched the credits and like, oh wow, like I got a little warm in my heart seeing Basil and Oliver in the end credits. Oh, they remembered them. But it's like this movie tried so hard to be the 100th anniversary celebration movie, and it failed. Miserably failed. And that's kind of my point. The whole thing is that a lot of people had high expectations for this movie because this was supposed to be the culmination of 100 years of Disney, and it failed. It failed to live up to that expectation. If this was just a regular movie, and it just coincidentally is releasing on the 100th anniversary, it would have been different. The expectations would not have been high, but Disney really hyped this movie up to be the culmination of 100 years of Disney. You are going to see the origin of the wishing star in this movie. That was what they sold this movie on. The origin of the wishing star. When you wish upon a star, that star. Second star to the right, that star. That is the origin of this movie. And they sold it on that. Not the origin of the fairy godmother, not the origin of the magic mirror, the origin of the wishing star. And if this had been just a movie, we're going to make a traditional Disney kind of movie in the traditional Disney vibe. Doesn't have to be 2D animated, but that would have helped. I think people would have forgiven this movie more than what it is. But because this was sold as the 100th anniversary movie, that this was the culmination of 100 years of Disney, and this was going to be the origin of the wishing star. It put pressure on this movie that it was never going to reach. So Kiki, does Wish have the magic?
I don't think so. It pains me to say it, but
I want to say yes so badly, but it fails to do what it set out to do. I liked the movie. I didn't hate it. I'll be honest. I liked the movie. I didn't hate it. But
you know what I liked? Alan Tudyk, goat.
Alan Tudyk's awesome. I will say no magic simply because of what they wanted this movie to be and what it ended up being. They wanted this to be the culmination of 100 years of Disney. They wanted this movie to be the big origin of the wishing star. They set this movie up to be the origin of the fairy godmother, the origin of the magic mirror. And it was, like I said, it was more concerned with making references to other Disney movies than trying to tell its own story. And that is why this movie fails.
Couldn't agree more.
Let's move on to next week. We are going to talk about another classic Disney movie. Hopefully this one's actually going to be good. And a movie that was not referenced in this one at all. Hey, Kiki, let's take a trip south of the border. Let's have a fiesta with the Three Caballeros.
I cannot wait.
So, yes, come back next week as we talk the Three Caballeros. And we will talk to you all next time. Bye.
Bye.
Don't let the magic stop here.
Keep the conversation going. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Rewatching the Magic.
We are also on Blue Sky, rewatchingthemagic.bsky.social. And new episodes are available every Monday at rewatchingthemagic.podbean.com and youtube.com/@rewatchingthemagic. Remember, the magic is for everyone.
It only stops if you let it.
We know that right now, things are tough.
But in the words of Jim Henson, The only way the magic works is by hard work. But hard work can be fun.
Check out our show notes for ways that you can help.